Now, a little bit of it is kind of breaking news, and it's still yet the unknown. Matthew Mayer, Baylor guard, forward wing, whatever you want to call him, has announced that he, in fact, will enter the NBA draft, but keep his options open. He did this a year ago, decided to come back. Yesterday, Adam Flagler, so at least he got it in under the deadline, which is this weekend. And I don't know what he's going to do. I don't even know really the pulse of what Baylor fans want him to do compared to at this time a year ago.
Yeah, I don't know. But the one thing you do know is that if he does come back, he's coming back to Baylor because by the time the NBA draft process is over, it'll be too late to transfer for the next school year. So he will be back at Baylor if he does not keep his name in the NBA draft. So transfers out. So it's NBA or Baylor for Matthew Mayer. And, I think he got better in a lot of regards when you think about it, but he also regressed offensively a little bit. And he wasn't that consistent player that they really needed him to be at times. But you get to the North Carolina game, and his plus-minus was better than it had ever been in that game. He went into the game, and they wound up eventually losing because he couldn't come back in those times after he hurt his ankle. So he's kind of an enigma. It just... if that plus-minus that was there in the North Carolina game can be every game, then Matthew Mayer is a superstar. But that's what the problem is with Matthew Mayer is it's not always there.
Yeah, it's kind of like after last year said, hey, if Matthew Mayer can just do this, then he'll be – well, then what happened? He came out and he regressed offensively and got better defensively, and then you are left saying basically the same thing the following year, except for just maybe in a different manner about – we know what that improvement is needed. But, no, he's a really good player. When he's hot and on and in the zone, he's unlike a lot of other players in college basketball. It's just that, it's when do you see that? And it's, kind of probably fewer and far between than Baylor fans would like. But it is there. And, there's other, even when he's not there's still other intangible plays that he makes, and that was a lot of his story this year, where a lot more of the focus scoring-wise was in the hands of other guys. So, I'm not surprised to see that he's testing it. If he was going to test it after last year, it's not much of a surprise for him to test it after this year. A year later doing it all over again, I guess makes sense just to kind of get a preview of where he's viewed and what NBA scouts think. So he'll get whatever feedback he gets and decide that that's enough to, continue on towards a pro career, or he'll get the feedback that he gets and he'll decide it's best to, like last year, come back to Baylor. And either way, best of luck to him. Would like to see him back in green and gold just because I think that would make them a better team next year, and it would certainly go a long way in, having some veteran leadership there. But if he departs, then, it's just part of a mass exodus, and when you're at the level that they're at, there's no crying over spilt milk. Sometimes you lose your whole starting lineup, and it's not – all right, now it's time to rebuild. No, you're at the reload stage now, and I know they feel like they're going to reload regardless of what Matthew Mayer does. So, it'll be interesting to see.
Listen, you're better if you have him than you are if he leaves, especially with, as Craig mentioned, there's so many others, and plus Jonathan Tchamwa won't be available for quite some time, maybe not at all next year, although he is one that his commitment and his desire and drive. We'll try to bring him back as soon as possible. Adam Flagler, you should. If you have the ability to at least have NBA scouts tell you what your value is, and they'll be honest with you, then he did it yesterday. And then, of course, Kendall Brown and Jeremy Sohan are already gone. So is James Akinjo. And just ask some of the others. Look, Kentucky. And sometimes it catches up with them. They may lose everybody sometimes. Not this year. They're pretty good shape with Squebe coming back. But, it's part of Duke's losing Ben Caro, and I saw where a couple of others have already made their decision. It is part of being elite, part of the players you have that win and compete for national championships.
Yeah, I just think the guys who are going just need to be careful about their decisions, because I think in basketball more than probably any other sport, you take that jump and you might find yourself in a deep end where the NBA seems like it's, a world away, because there is only so many spots. It's very hard to get into the NBA and stick there. You could be a top second-round draft pick and not make the roster. So, to have a handful of guys that are in the draft, you hope that if they all stay in there, they all find landing spots. But I'm confident Kendall Brown's going to be fine. Jeremy Sohan's going to be fine. But James Akinjo, I mean, does he end up in the NBA? Does he end up in Russia? You know, Matthew Mayer, does he end up in the NBA or is he in Czechoslovakia or Czech Republic or Slovakia? You know, that's kind of the risk that you run. But, you know, that's up to those players and their agents and those teams to give them honest feedback. And hopefully with all that information, they make the best decision.
Yeah, and, you know, just comparing it to the NFL draft, you know, sometimes guys come out too early in the NFL and maybe get drafted lower than they would a year later just because there's inexperience. But if you're a professional football player, you're pretty much going to be able to catch on a roster because there's some space for you. If you're not, it's going to get weeded out. You said about professional basketball, there's not as many, you know, you could be a first-round pick a year later and then get picked in the third round because you went out too early. And if you're good enough, you're going to make it. And the NBA, because there's so little spots, I mean, you're talking about 2 rounds of a draft. Like you might, you know, wind up, you know, kind of fighting your way through it for a little while.
Also
but
less players on the roster.
Yeah, all that stuff.
Like
Yeah,
a bunch.
Different rules and all that. Like, I mean, football players can hang on to an 80-man roster for, you know, a majority of the year and then, you know, get cut and then end up on a practice squad. And so, yeah, you're technically not really on the team playing, but you're still hanging around. You know, in the NBA, there's deals like that. You know, he could be in the G League and whatever, like Freddie Gillespie. We've seen him with those two-way contracts, or Ish Wainwright. So there's ways to make it work, but it's just a lot more of a difficult road than, you know, simply being a draft pick and just knowing that you're going to stick somewhere. So, yeah, I mean, with the Kinjo, I mean, he's already made his decision. We know that. But with Flagler and Meyer, that'll be, you know, very interesting to see here over the next, you know, few weeks as we go into the draft and hit these deadlines and whatnot, what actually ends up happening with those two. Because if they both come back, then, I mean, watch out. And if they don't come back, I still think it'll be a good team. But obviously, you know, Flagler and Meyer are pretty big pieces.
So Baylor women